Okay. So again, I'll just start again. Okay. So regarding your programming assignment one, I have in the chat, I have shared, and I will share it in the Slack and in the announcement as well, that it is based on the labs. It is based on the labs provided here for the AZ104 Azure administration, right? So lab number 4, lab number 7, and lab number 8. These are the key things, okay? You can do these labs in your environment, in your subscription, in your resource group, and that'll really prepare you to do the programming assignment, okay? So let's continue where we stopped. I'll mention these things in the announcements as well, okay? And I'll have the TAs or myself, we will do some of these things as well together if you guys are interested. And I think that'll be good learning exercise. So we started off with virtual machines last time, okay? So when you're looking at virtual machines, and let me just switch to my own tenant, okay? And so here is my tenant. I'm logging into my tenant, my Entra ID tenant, okay? And here are my things, okay? Maybe some of you guys have started making something, doesn't look like. So when you talked about a virtual machine, it says that every VM has an OS disk. So if you go back, it's a good exercise to look what is going on and what the settings are like. So if you go into the disks of a virtual machine, you can see it has one disk, which is the OS disk, okay? So it tells you each VM has 2 or more disks. OS disk, temporary disks, and again, this is probably incorrect, right? It should be 1 or more disks, because temporary disk, not all SKUs have one, okay? And it says content can be lost if you create a VM with that one. On this thing, I mentioned, and please be very clear, in the naming convention, if there is a D, lowercase d, that means that VM has a disk, a temporary disk. Content can be lost. Uh, you can put any kind of content there that you don't mind losing if the VM reboots. Nothing will happen to the content while the VM is running, but it can get cleaned up if the VM reboots, right? So a lot of time we do our computation and various different things on this disk as well, right? So any temporary files being created and all that, we can put it over there. So if you look at it, if you go back, so I'm looking at the disk, I can make it favorite. So it is comes up over here, okay, under over here. और यहाँ पे कोई भी जो menu item है, I can type over here if I don't know, right? I can put disk and it'll show me where it is. It shows me favorites में भी है. It shows me इसमें disk. So navigating the portal and the environment is very important, right? So if you look at the disk, it tells you that there's an OS disk and there is no other disk attached, right? So a lot of time if you need a D drive, E drive for whatever purpose, right? We can do this one. We can say create and attach a new disk. And I can say, for example, logical unit number, disk name, I can say data disk 1. And I can type is very important, right? Premium SSD and standard SSD and standard HDD. And generally, I think standard SSD is usually okay, unless you want something high performance. Okay, you can do premium SSD. I'll pick standard SSD, and you can say gigabyte. Okay, and gigabyte, for example, I can say 128. Now, interesting part in the disk is that you are charged by sizes, right? So I'll show you where that thing is. But generally, this is all you need. You need to provide the size. So Microsoft charges you disks by the specific size, right? So you can put 100, but you'll be charged for the 128, right? You can put 200, you'll be charged 256. It's the power of 2, okay? But anyway, we'll go into the storage later on. So you can attach the disk. OS is by default you get, okay? We'll discuss the LRS and those things. And you can go into the disk as well. If you look at this disk, and it tells you also it's an HDD. And you might not be happy with it. You can think that, okay, I need a high performance stick. I don't need the HDD. I want to change it, right? And it allows you to change the size and performance, right? You can change it. Of course, it will say, it might give you an error message that say that VM is running. Please shut it down and do this, right? So you can see over here the size is, you pay by this size, okay? So even if you put 100, you will be charged 128. Even if you put 256 or 250, you put 270, 280, you'll be charged the next amount, okay? So just be, be aware of that. These are high performance disks if you want. So over here you can pick, for example, standard SSD, and it tells you the different sizes, different speed. It also tells you zone redundant. It gets automatically copied to a different zone. Standard SSD and the premium SSD, these two disks, they automatically get copied to a different zone. So if your VM crashes, something happens over here, it is getting copied over there, right? So you can restore the VM from over there, but of course it'll cost you extra. Okay, so that's all. So anyway, so you can change it. So if I go back over here and I say, okay, I want a 64 gig, okay, and I say save. Let's say it's trying to update the disk. Let's see what happens. Okay, it has updated. Is it real time it has done it? That'll be really great. 64 gig. So if you go back to the VM and we go back into the virtual machine, and let's see, go back into the disks. It is showing 30 gig. Okay, so let me see if I refresh. Yeah, so that is really interesting. I did not know they could do hot change the size like when the VM is running. So it's really nice. I could change to SSD from the HDD. It changed to SSD. So behind the scenes, what happens is I'm not sure. They haven't released the architecture, how the DS disk and OS disk could be done, right? So they do some of their magic or architecture, but they might have documented it. I personally have never, tried to investigate what actually happens. It's like in our machines, we have to pull out a disk, copy it, and do many things, right? How they're able to do that, or what do they do behind the scenes, I'm not sure, right? It'll be good to investigate this part, that when you change the disk type, how with VM running it is able to, oh, sorry, VM is stopped. That's why it was able to do that, okay? So VM is stopped, that's why it was able to change the size and all that. If it was running, it would have stopped us, and we can try this again. Let's see. So it takes you, 30 seconds to a minute, and you can see over here the status should get updated from stop deallocated to it'll become running. So this is what we are interested in this one. So you can see it is running, and then the notification gets updated after a while. Now if you go back into the disks, right, and now if I say I want to change it, right, size and performance, I'll close the notification. I'll try to make it 128. They're saying that changes to the disk, now it is giving us warning. Changes to the disk can be made only when the disk is unattached, right? Or when the machine managing virtual machine are deallocated. Okay. So unattached is you kind of remove it, of course, virtually from the machine, and that can only happen when machine is stopped. So they're saying if the machine is not attached to the VM, either that or the VM is stopped. Deallocate means is stopped basically. Deallocate. They are saying deallocated instead of stopped because deallocation means that I have given my CPU and RAM back to Azure, so I should not be getting charged. If I stop the VM from operating system, like I go into Windows and say shut down, that does not deallocate, and you continue to get billed. So people used to get charged, and they used to get big bills, right? and later on they added this one in the overview. I will leave this one, okay? So I cannot make the changes. It is not allowing me to make the changes, okay? You can see over here, I cannot do this, right? I cannot do this change like I did before because then machine was stopped and deallocated. I could change, but not now. It's not allowing me to do that, okay? So now it is saying save because I haven't made any changes, right? It is still the old one, old size, okay? So over here you can see the navigation menu. So I'm going back to my VM and the disks, okay? So this is what the VM is. And I mentioned that you cannot change the IPs if you go back into the networking, right? The favorites in the network settings. If I go back, it takes me to the network card. You can see the network card, NIC, AKVM1, VM, NIC, and I see network interface card, right? And it tells you the configuration is over here, IP config AKVM1, okay? That's what the configuration is. And I told you guys, you cannot change the VNet, you can change the subnet, okay? And you can see also NSG is attached to the VM directly as well. I mentioned the class. You can attach the VM to the, NSG to the subnet or to the VM or both, right? Here, VM has the NSG attached as well. Okay. There is a public IP and there is a private IP. And I mentioned that first four addresses 0, 1, 2, 3 are reserved by Azure. So it got the first available IP, which is 4 on its subnet. Okay. And it shows you also over here. So in the overview and the network settings, there's a lot of information that you can see. No application security group. There is no load balancer. Those kind of things. Okay. And again, this is what we have. Okay. So now going back, it says each Azure VM has 2 or more disks. So it should be 1 or more disk actually, not 2 or more, right? Data disk, just like we did added now. Temporary disk, our VM did not have a temporary disk. OS disk was there. Okay? And they're saying that behind the scenes, right? They are sitting in the Azure storage account. Temporary disk, everything is an Azure blob, right? This is the important point to read, that everything is a blob. It's sitting in a storage account. We'll see the storage account shortly. Okay. And here are different ones: standard, HDD, SSD, premium SSD. There's an ultra SSD. We did not have the option for ultra because it is available only to very high specific VMs, which are very high end, right? High performance VMs. They have the ultra option because they have very specific high end network cards as well. But this is needed when you are doing very heavy disk activity. Only then you do this. Okay. I'll discuss what managed disks are when you go into the storage. Okay. So this one, for example, we saw the network machine, we saw the virtual machine and all that, right? So over here, let's do a small demonstration. I will create a VM, and this is what you will be doing in your, for example, in your labs and in your assignments, right? So I'll create a virtual machine. And I can say, for example, my resource group is, I'll create a new one. Okay? And I can say, for example, RG. This is a naming convention. I'll give you documentation. If there's a naming convention, it is mentioned in your programming assignment as well. Okay. And I can say this belongs to CS437 and it is a demo. Okay. And this is the region, UAE North. Okay. We put these abbreviations over here. And this is the naming convention, which region. So even if I look at resource group, I can simply see, okay, this resource group is made for this, and I'm doing some demo in this one, and this is sitting in UAE North. Okay. And I can say VM again, VM CS437 demo 01 UAEN. Okay. And I can say UAE, UAE North. Okay. And I'll not pick any option. I will say no infrastructure redundancy required. Trusted virtual machine, I don't want, I'll just do basic. Once we go over this one, we'll see. Okay. Then I can say images and I want to get Windows Server. Okay. I can do Windows Client also, Windows 11 also, which we can do Windows 11, right? Maybe. But you will not pay anything more or less because of Windows version. They will charge you the Windows, machine. Maybe client is cheaper. We'll see how, and we can check this one. Okay, from the pricing calculator, your pricing calculator. Okay, we'll go over here and we can see that whether if I say virtual machine, operating system Windows, and so it's Windows or Linux. You pay the same price whether you're getting Windows Server or Windows Client. It does not matter, right? As you can see, that it doesn't really matter. So pricing is same. Of course, when you're doing Windows client, um, yeah. Let's take a look. I don't want to go into this one right now. I'll pick. So we'll see which data center. Okay, we can see Azure Edition, Hot Patch, and I want to make sure that I want to get something with, let me just pick something else. Let me just see. Windows Server, Windows Server. I just pick Windows version 11. That's fine. We'll leave it like that. Okay. So we pick the image, right? So every company has published their images. There's a specific way. For example, you can check how to create Windows image. They tell you. So basically, I can create my own, जो मेरी अपनी machine के अंदर with all the software, I can create an image out of it, right? And what happens is, if I install this image on somewhere else, all applications, everything will come over there as well. So it's a very common way of dealing with distributing operating system with all the applications, right? Yeah, आपके पास जो option है कि there will be only the V1. Okay, you can only do, for example, single CPU one. Okay, that's a policy that has been set. So then you can set up the, for example, I usually put, for example, AK admin, and I put password as pass, @word one, shift 1 2 3 4 5. ये मैंने अपने रखे हुए ताकि I know कि every time I use the same one, I can change it later on. Okay. So right now, for our specific purpose, we are doing specific thing. Okay, that we are assigning. If I say public outbound ports, if I say none, I block the access from outside. Okay, you can see all traffic from the internet will be blocked by default. So we should know each and everything what we are doing. Okay, always know what you are doing when you pick any option. When you say allow selected ports, that means it will give it public IP, and we can pick up RDP and HTTP, right? I can maybe put all of them. So RDP and SSH are remote access ports, and it will basically attach an NSG and add these rules to allow these ports. Okay. या आपकी जो programming assignment है उसके अंदर you need to set up a web server, right? So उसके अंदर you need to allow the inbound ports for HTTP. It is not a good idea because it's not secure. VM is being exposed directly. But right now for our programming assignment, we will do that, right? And then later on we'll see how to secure this one properly. SSH is a way to do remote desktop or remote connection to Linux machine or a Windows के अंदर भी अब available है, right? And you can search for it actually. Uh, you can say enable SSH on Windows 11, right? And it tells you how to enable it, right? Optional features. Let's say start settings. If I do this one, and I can say apps. And let's see optional features, right? Let's say optional features. Is there something optional features? Okay, so you go into this one and you say, let's say view optional features. Okay, yes, let's do this one. So let's see if there's SSH. Okay, so there is SSH client is there. Is there SSH server? Yeah, so I mean SSH server is not there. It should be on Windows server, but at least client is there. Okay, let's see if we have what else is there. Notepad. Open SSH client. So we have only this one, okay? That's fine, okay? I'll do this one as well. Close. So you can enable this one, okay? SSH. If you have SSH on Windows, right? And that is usually it is done ताकि आप एक कॉमन वे में विंडोज और लिनक्स के सर्वर्स को एक ही तरीके से उनको एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन करो उनकी राइट दैट्स हाउ वी डू दिस तो कह रहा है कि दिस इज ऑल आईपी एड्रेसेस टू एक्सेस योर वर्चुअल मशीन दैट मींस द इनबाउंड इज एनीबडी कैन कम एंड एक्सेस जस्ट लाइक हमने वो एनएसजी के अंदर देखा था ना एनी rule any traffic is accepted over these we can control that one later on right but anyway let's look at next तो यहाँ पे विल नॉट लुक एट दीज थिंग्स अब ये देखो इमेज डिफॉल्ट लुक है जो इस इमेज के साथ 127 जीबी की डिस्क आती है तो मैं कहता हूँ ओके दिस फाइन विल पिक दिस वन लिनक्स के साथ बाय डिफॉल्ट इज 30 जीबी और विंडोज के साथ 127 जीबी की डिस्क आती है द ओएस डिस्क ओके एंड आई कैन से ओके आई डोंट वांट प्रीमियम आई प्लीज चेंज टू एसएसडी तो दे आर सेइंग के इट्स इट विल डू हाई IOPS high disk activity it can support and all that. This is the nice option. पहले क्या होता था कि जब हम VM को डिलीट करते थे ना disk was left behind. So now you can check the option it can delete the disk also. Okay. And they are saying enable ultra high disk compatibility जो हमने देखा था पहले कि ultra disk भी you can enable. They are saying कि आपने लाजमी availability zone करनी है. Only then we'll allow this. We are not doing that. We don't need ultra. We'll leave it right now. Okay. यहाँ पे you can add. Let me see if it allows you add new data disk. Okay. We can do this one. Data disk 0. Source is empty. I can change the size. For example, it'll bring me the sizes. So right at the creation time, I can specify disk. Right. Share disk I don't need. I will go into this one and I can enable this one delete disk with VM. Okay. जब command line पे करोगे ना these are all good things to play with right. Then we'll continue. Now we come to virtual network. हमने पहले virtual network बनाया था. We have this one and understand this कि virtual network must be in the same place where your VM is being created in the same region. ये नहीं हो सकता कि मैं उसको किसी और रीजन में बनाऊं और यहां से मैं किसी और पकड़ वो VNet. I mean think about it कि I need to be in the same data center where my VNet is, right? I cannot just put it somewhere else. So it shows कि ये मेरा UAE North में and that's why naming convention is so critical, right? It shows me कि मेरा जो है ना यहाँ पे पड़ा हुआ है, right? Now I can maybe since I am in a different resource group, RGCS demo UAEN, I can create this one, okay? I can create a different VNet. वो कह रहा है मैं इस resource में बनाऊंगा VNet UAE North, right? And then you can edit that. Okay, I can say VNet CS437 UAE and demo UAEN. Okay. मैं यहाँ पे okay starting address is this. It is I'll put /24 और मैं इसके अंदर यहाँ पे कर दूंगा इसको for example SNet VM right and I will make it let's say 26. There you go. Right. And then I can add one more. Okay. तो ये मैं उसी virtual machine के अंदर हूँ but I'm saying okay I want to create a new network. Okay. Once I do this it'll take me back over there, right? यहाँ पे मैं कह रहा हूँ for example storage VNet storage for example, right? And over here again I want to do /26. Okay. मैंने पहले 64 किया था उसको, right? So I can do 64. I'm dividing over 64 range because 26 has 64 addresses. So I can have four /26s, right? So now let me see. VNet is this. I've added this is my address space, everything. I'll say save. Okay, so I'm back into the virtual machine. It created this one. It's going to create this one, and this is the subnet that I'll be using. Okay. Network interface. It tells you what the public IP needs to be. it names it like this, and but I don't like the naming convention. So what we do is we'll give a different name. I want to put IP in the beginning. Okay? I'll remove this one. So generally हम IP लिख के ना VM का नाम डाल देते हैं आगे. So we know it belongs to this. Okay. Standard static. I will leave everything. Yeah, keep it simple right now. Yeah. NSG is there. Advanced, for example, it tells us some other things as well. And when you do advanced, it gives you option. Okay. So again, I can do the something naming convention. Okay. NSG, VM, and again, I don't need to give the whole thing. I'm creating this NSG for all the VMs. Okay. I'm doing it like this. अब RDP I have a inbound rule. Inbound I have allowed multiple things. Okay, source is any, source port is any, destination is any, and but important point is HTTP I want to allow. अगर मैंने web server करना I need to allow HTTP port, right? Priority is 1000. It's fine. I can leave it, right? Uh, I can say inbound HTTP, right? I can add also SSH, right? I can also come to service and SSH. I can do this one, and I can say inbound SSH, right? I can do this one again. जो मैंने पोर्ट वहाँ पे अलाउ किए हुए हैं, I'm doing the same thing. मैंने 80 किया हुआ है 3389 for the remote desktop protocol for Windows, SSH for for the SSH. I can do one more, which is, if you remember, I did HTTPS. Okay. I don't need to provide say inbound. I think it's a bit repetitive. This is already inbound, but I will do. I don't need outbound any rules. I don't need to control outbound traffic right now. तो उसने मेरा NSC बना दिया rules. So whenever we say okay, we want to control it, advanced simply means it'll give us options to control the creation. That's all it is doing. I can do basic also, and it'll create automatically, right? With its own naming convention. But here I have used my own naming convention. Okay. You can enable this. ये इसके अंदर high speed networking enable कर देता है. I don't think there are any extra charges for this. Load balancer, okay, I don't need anything right now. I can leave it. Okay. Management, we'll leave this one right now. I don't need to say anything. Backups you can do, patching and all that. We'll leave it right now. Okay. We'll not do anything. I'll leave the alerts right now and diagnostics. So again, ये सारी चीजें optional हैं. You can enable it, but we'll take a look later on. Okay, on these things. Nothing needed over here. Tags, nothing. So after the networking, we are fine. We can just say review and create. We can bypass all of it, right? So VM is there. So I can say, for example, it's going to validate everything. It's going to check all my settings, configurations, everything, right? So it takes a few seconds, and then it'll say validated, and it'll allow me to create. Okay. Okay, it tells you the price. It tells me everything. Create is enabled now. Everything is okay. So let's do this one. Okay. We'll do create. This is essentially what you'll be doing in your programming assignment. Creation of virtual network, creation of a virtual machine, network cards, and all those things, right? और इसमें आपने स्टेप बाय स्टेप करना है. इसमें तो मैंने VM बनाते वक्त सारी चीज़ें कर ली थी. वहाँ पे you have to create VNet first, NSG first, and then go step by step, okay? So यहाँ पे it says okay, one resource failed. Why this one is? वो कह रहे जी आप ये वाली चीज़ अब यूए नॉर्थ में नहीं कर सकते, आप जो किसी और में करना चाह रहे हो. वो कह रहा है यू मस्ट हैव जोन, आप ज़रूर अप्लाई करो उसके ऊपर, राइट? सो उसने वीएम बना दिया उसने मेरी, लेट्स सी के वीएम फेल हो गई है. उसने मेरा नेटवर्क का वीनेट बना दिया, एनएसडी बना दिया, डिस्क बना दिया, आईपी फेल हुआ है, और उसने मेरा आई कैन डू रीडिप्लॉय. Sometimes it is not the easiest thing, but let's see if it allows us to do that, right? If I do redeploy, अब उसने सारी स्क्रिप्ट बनाई हुई है behind the scenes. I can say, let's say rg डेमो ओके, ये मैं पिक कर लिया. So menu is, as you can see, everything is changed. It's a one shot everything. Let's see, we can pick our stuff, okay? And what else is needed? सारी options ले आए हमारी. Enable hot patching. We'll just say true. और IP address के ऊपर it failed, right? Public IP के ऊपर. Public IP is Q standard. ये zones के ऊपर fail हुआ था, okay? Let's say we put one on this one. Yeah, unless you know, a usually better thing is to go and recreate, okay? If you're not comfortable with this, it is not the, when you do recreate, वो script mode में आपको लेके आता है basically, right? Let's see if it will work, right? I will check. Let's see if it will work like this. So this time was zone, we had to select for the public IP, some zone needs to be selected, and now it is happy. It is creating the other disk. यहाँ पे पहले उसने मेरा ख्याल एक disk बना ली थी. Okay, now it is saying, we can see why it is failing. वो hot patch setting मैंने enable कर दी थी, वो कह रहे जी आप ये नहीं कर सकते इसकी. So it is not for hot patching, right? Again we can do redeploy. Again, always read the error message. ये वहाँ पे लेके आएगा हमें, and you will see now वो मैंने setting. That's why it's not anyway. If you don't know, you don't want to go into this mode, into redeploy mode, right? It is not the, but usually instead of us, once you get familiar with it, it's a very quick way to take care of this, right? So let me just I will go back demo un. और यहाँ पे मेरा वन आया हुआ है यहाँ पे, और हॉट पैचिंग जो थी यहाँ पे, if you remember, let's see, patch mode, so it is automatic by OS. That's fine, we can leave it like this. Image default है, enable ये false. I'll do all, okay? I'll do this one. That was the issue. क्योंकि वो ऑटोमेटिक बाय ओएस है, तो देयर इज नो हॉट पैचिंग, वो सर्वर की सेटिंग है बेसिकली. द नाइस थिंग इज इट चेक्स. अगर जहाँ पे फेलियर हुआ है, इट चेक्स एवरीथिंग एंड इट जस्ट गोज मूव्स फॉरवर्ड फ्रॉम देयर. दिस इज द नाइस थिंग अबाउट दिस, राइट? द होल सिस्टम, कि एक स्क्रिप्ट है, अगर उसमें फेलियर हुआ है, it will continue from where the failure happened. It will not recreate of the previous stuff. It will simply check if it's there and it will move forward from there. And you can see also, let me see, so it is running, it is doing it. Let me see if we can, yeah. So it doesn't take too much time, it goes pretty quickly when you're creating the, yes.
सर जो चैट में क्वेश्चन है वो आंसर कर सकते हैं?
जी, let's see क्या है चैट में क्वेश्चन. आप just ask me directly. I'm not looking at the chat, right? So just ask me directly क्या questions हैं.
सर मेरा क्वेश्चन था कि जो ओएस डिस्क होती है दैट्स प्योरली फॉर ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम स्टोरेज, उसका कोई डिफॉल्ट साइज होता है या फिर हमें स्पेसिफाई करना पड़ता है?
तो डिस्क जैसा हमने भी सिलेक्ट की थी, कि उसके अंदर मैंने बताया था, अगर लिनक्स से करते हो ना, तो इट शोज यू कि आपको 32 मैग 30 मैग और 32 मैग की डिस्क मिलती है आपको, और विंडोज़ के अंदर 127 की. बट यू हैव द ऑप्शन टू चेंज इट एंड मेक इट बिगर. ठीक है? तो इट इज सिंपली, अगर मैंने और चीज़ें इंस्टॉल करनी है उसके ऊपर, आई कैन आस्क इट, ओके गिव मी अ बिगर डिस्क, आई वांट 256 और 512, आई कैन डू दैट, राइट? वो टेम्पलेट्स जो आती हैं वर्चुअल मशीन की, टेम्पलेट्स बनी हुई ऑटोमेटिकली, उसमें डिफ़ॉल्ट साइज लिखा हुआ है, बट वी कैन चेंज इट एट द टाइम ऑफ क्रिएशन फ्रॉम द पोर्टल और फ्रॉम द CLI. वी कैन डू दैट. ठीक है? सो देयर इज रियली नो प्रॉब्लम. इट जस्ट डिपेंड्स ऑन योर साइज. दे हैव गिवन के OS इंस्टॉल होगा इस डिस्क के ऊपर, So we'll give you the minimum disk that OS can be installed. For everything else, attach other disks, for example. But I mean, you have always the option to modify the size of the OS disk and make it bigger, right? Which we do quite a bit of times, right? We change the disk size. But वो सिर्फ from the OS perspective, they give you the disk where OS is sufficient for OS only. Please stop me and ask the questions. Don't wait and look in the do in the chat. Just ask me as in the class, right? Just ask or raise your hand. I will see the hand raised, but I cannot see the chat, right? So just ask me the questions directly. So let's see what is happening. Let's see what else is over here. So we'll do the web server role. Nothing really special. Okay. So let's see if this gets done. और इसमें आप देख भी सकते हो by the way. If I go into the so it is there now. By the way, अगर मैं resource group में जाऊँ ना अपने, so just to see what is happening and where is RG CS, right? This is the one that I have, right? And ये आप देख रहे हो सारी चीज़ें जो आपकी वो हुई हैं. OS this यहाँ पे है. So यहाँ पे आपका VNet भी बन गया. This is precisely what you'll be doing in your PA as well, right? Programming assignment. यहाँ पे आप देख सकते हो, for example, deployments, right? कि what were the deployments over here? So it tells you कि ये template थी. There were 2 failures, and then this one ran successfully, and it took this much time. Okay, and it tells you who ran it, and many different pieces of information it gives you. यहाँ पे operation details के अंदर I think it tells you the name and everything कि कौन कर रहा है, right? Let me see. Is it giving my name somewhere? It is somewhere. Anyway, I'll take a look. There's a full tracking on this one. Okay, so you can see also what got deployed. So now let's go back into our this one and overview. This is where we are. ये हमने VM बनाई है. So let's take a look at the virtual machine. Virtual machine is running and agent says not ready. ये जो portal है जो हम जो कुछ भी करते हैं ना VM में changes, it talks to the agent inside VM and that's what happens essentially, right? But now it is saying कि let's see if you can connect. ठीक है? अब इसे जो connect करना है, you use the RDP. Okay? So अगर आपका RDP, or you can say remote desktop, right? Remote desktop connection. This is what you will need. Okay, I can put the IP address. Let's see what happens. Will it allow me to connect? अब अगर आपको you want to see what is happening with my VM, right? Okay, let's see if there's a firewall issue or something else. Okay, let's take a look. But I just want to see what is going on with my VM virtual machine. So what you can do is you can come down over here, monitoring के अंदर, and you can see, let me see, actually it's a very nice thing to boot diagnostics. Okay, यहाँ पे आपको screenshot दिखाता है from the VM and you can see it is up and running. ठीक है, sometimes यहाँ पे black screen भी होगी, sometimes blue screen भी आई हुई होती है. So when you're trying to connect, you want to see whether it's up and running. तो आपको boot diagnostics में जाके help के अंदर you can see the screenshot. यहाँ पे आपको serial log के अंदर you can see also what was happening. Okay, so some information where it is booting up, it gives you certain pieces of information, right? And you can log in also. There's a behind the scenes console where you can go in and connect to Windows as well. So there's a lot of troubleshooting things it allows you to do. But let's focus on our stuff, right? So right now I was not able to connect. Let's see connection troubleshoot. Okay. So my source is let's see if I want to do this. But before I go over there, let me see over here. Okay. And what I want to do is मैं इसका सबसे पहले NSG देखूंगा what is going on with the NSG. Okay, so if I go and say NSG doesn't belong to the virtual machine. So NSG, as we saw, it belongs to the network card. आप नेटवर्क कार्ड के ऊपर असाइन कर सकते हैं या सबनेट के ऊपर. सो लेट्स टेक अ लुक व्हाट इज गोइंग ऑन. ओके, सो व्हाट आई विल डू इज आई लुक एट द नेटवर्किंग. मैं यहाँ पे आऊँगा and I will say, for example, again I can go into network settings. नेटवर्क सेटिंग के ऊपर इट्स लेट्स सी इफ इट्स गिविंग मी समथिंग. वो कह रहा है आपके पास नेटवर्क इंटरफेस इज दिस और एनएसजी कुछ नहीं दिखा रहा फिलहाल. लेट्स सी व्हाट हैपेंड टू आवर एनएसजी और वेयर द एनएसजी जो हमने सारी सेटिंग की थी उसकी. ठीक है, वो कह रहा है आपका सबनेट इज दिस, राइट, आईपी कॉन्फ़िग इज दिस एंड नेटवर्क सिक्योरिटी ग्रुप देयर इज नथिंग. if there is no network interface on this, where it could be. हमने जो सारी सेटिंग की थी और पब्लिक आईपी एड्रेस लिखा था, so did it create the NSG? Let's take a look. अब सारा कुछ हमारे एक ही रिसोर्स ग्रुप में है, so let's go. इसने बनाया है NSG, इसने नहीं बनाया हुआ NSG यहाँ पे, right? Let's see what happened over there in this one. Is there an NSG over here? इसने सबनेट के ऊपर do we have NSG? वो कह रहा है there is no NSG over here. ठीक है, NSG there is none on the subnet as well. So subnet में भी नहीं है और वो भी नहीं बना, right? Maybe because the failure it did not create. But let's take a look how to figure it out. So तो हमने NSG देखा है VM के ऊपर there is none. ये NSG बना हुआ है actually. There is NSG, right? So let's take a look. Is it attached? वो कह रहे हैं आप इसके किसी के साथ attach नहीं हुआ हुआ, right? So let's do our attachment of this. NSC बना but attach नहीं हुआ. Maybe because of the failure, right? हमारे दो तीन failure थे, so it didn't get attached. So let's look at settings, and we say network interface. We'll attach it to the subnet, right? Where the VM is. ताकि हम बाद में वो बनाएं तो कोई और VM बनाए तो automatically it'll get SI, right? So हम कह रहे हैं हमारा ये वाला हमारा VNet है और ये वाला subnet है हमारा, ठीक है? So we are fine. ठीक है. Now we say inbound security rules क्या है हमारे RDP allow हुआ है यहाँ पे. So it seems it didn't get made properly. हमारे rules जो थे they are not here, right? So 3389 so far is okay. This is what we need, source and destination any, right? So let's take a look again. If you go back and say इसकी by the way shortcut is MSTSC, Microsoft Terminal Services Client actually. ये remote desktop used to be called terminal services, right? So MSTSC is a shortcut direct name of remote desktop connection. Okay, let's see what happens now. Sorry, I don't want 192.168. What happened to my IP, right? I'll go back into my this one and I can go into the directory, the IP address, because I know this is what is attached to that thing, right? I can find ये हर एक की चीज़ का क्या ना कॉपी का आता है. You can copy it from over here. वो कह रहा है इस VM के साथ associate हुआ है, which is what we need. Associate with this network card, and this is the virtual machine with a network card, right? So this is what is giving us info. Always be very clear on what is giving you information. Lot of information is provided. Now it is there, right? That was the issue. By default it was blocked. हमने NSC लगाया that allowed the port. Now I want more choices. I want to go use a different account. If you remember, I use AK admin. मैंने पासवर्ड डाला इसके अंदर and I'm doing this one now. Okay. Was it AK admin? क्या पासवर्ड था मेरा? I thought, let me just try again. Okay, so now we are again, it says, okay, it's not liking something. So there is always fallback. They have thought through everything, right? So again, if you don't have NSG, by default, it's blocked, right? You have to allow the port in. So we go back into this one, we go back into our VM, और हमारा अब इशू ये है कि मेरा ID password जो मैंने सेट किया था बनाते वक्त, it is not working, right? So what do? We come over here and say reset password. What about the user? वो कहते हैं आपका ये user name था, and what you can do is if you change it over here, for example, I'm saying AK VM admin. मेरा it will make the admin ID as this. So you can rename or recreate the account from over here. Okay. So I will say pass at word 1 1 2 3 4 5. और ये command when I do this, it will go to the agent that is running in the VM, and it will tell agent to do this, right? So your portals and communication to the VM and internal VM settings all happening to the agent, right? This is ARM request in progress. This is the ARM system is essentially when you do the command, there is a layer which all the commands go to. ये हम पढ़ेंगे इंशाल्लाह बाद में. It's a little bit more topic हम थोड़ी सी basic चीजें पढ़ लें, then going to ARM. So it is talking to the virtual machine. It has sent the command to virtual machine, and it says, okay, it's reset. Okay, so let's go back into this. I will do this again. More choices. Use a different account, and I can say AK VM admin. Okay. Remember me. Now it is happy. अब वो कह रहे कि उसने सर्टिफिकेट दिया, but certificate is not from a trusted source. And what we do is, okay, I'm fine, just accept it, right? So we are okay with this one. We'll discuss this certificate based authentication later on, but right now the point is, yes, it's fine. Okay, it's our VM we just created, and now you can see we are going inside the virtual machine. अब ये मेरी यूएई नॉर्थ डेटा सेंटर के अंदर क्लाउड के अंदर मेरी वर्चुअल मशीन चल रही है, मेरा सर्वर फॉर ऑल प्रैक्टिकल पर्पसेस, राइट? और इसमें I'll make it like this. Okay, I'll make it hold on, I'll make it ये भी resize हो जाए कि once it becomes ready, right? And we can see also, right, ये जो screenshots हैं इसके वहां पे जाके we can go back into boot diagnostics, and it gets refreshed, right? We can ask it to refresh. वो 450 पे, let's see what happens. I want to see this thing. Yeah, I think after a certain time it does. ये आ जाएंगे सारे स्क्रीनशॉट. ये पहली दफ़ा स्टार्ट हो रही है वर्चुअल मशीन, so it will take a little bit of time, just like a brand new machine, right? This is what's happening, and it will get ये automatically resize होगी. Just give it a little bit of time. Yeah. So now हमने नेटवर्क बनाया अपने क्लाउड के अंदर, हमने वर्चुअल मशीन बनाई है, उसमें आईपी एड्रेस हमने इनेबल किया, right? And we are able to do remote desktop with the ID password. Or it's a secure connection because it passed the certificate, and all our communication is happening over authenticated over a connection, right? So you can see over here, you just have brand new PC बना पूछता हमारे से. So I will do this one. ये Windows जब हो जाती है, then it automatically resize itself. So I'm just having it, once it finishes the setup. Right, so Windows is coming up. इसके अंदर I want to make sure I think maybe just RDB का session, and I want to see if I can resize, and let me see, refresh this guy. अब maybe उसने हमारी सेशन के वो नहीं दिखा रहा, हम जो हमारा जो सेशन है that is private to this guy, right? So let's do this MSTSC. इसके अंदर जो options है ना, what I want to do is let's see, display large. I can do this, okay? I can do this. और आप यहाँ से printers और attach कर सकते हो, वहाँ से कुछ print करो, it can print it to your one, okay? You can do those kind of things. But let's see. यहाँ पे आ रहा है server authentication fails, connect and don't warn me. You can do this kind of thing, but let's connect again. Okay, AKVM admin pass at word 1 1 2 3 4 5. Let's see. It's a bit smaller. I was hoping that I can resize. Maybe I want to resize. Maybe make it. Let me make it a little bit bigger. Okay, it's a bit too small. Again, MSTSC. It is already here. Again, I go into show options and display. Yeah, that was a little bit small. Okay, this is fine, I think. Oops. Okay, so this is good enough. Okay. तो हमारा विंडोज मशीन इज इनेबल राइट फिर आपकी जो अगली वाली है टू इनेबल वेब सर्वर तो इफ आई डू दिस फॉर एग्जांपल वी कैन से विंडोज फीचर्स सो व्हेनेवर कनेक्टिविटी हो रही है आपने वीएम देखनी है कि वीएम इज अप एंड रनिंग यहाँ से स्क्रीनशॉट देख लो सो वीएम इज हेल्दी then you look at the NSGs. NSGs must be attached because by default it's blocked. NSG is what allows, right? Allows it, right? So let's see. Windows की settings में जाके that'll be quicker, right? And I mean, these are two core machines, so it feels a bit slow. You have, अगर आप बड़ी करोगे तो लाज़मी बात will be much nicer. But now I can say, for example, I can say Windows features. Let's see what is the quick way. और इसमें turn Windows features on or off, ठीक है? इसमें एक और which you should learn is कि आपने how do you enable features? So अगर आप web server install करना है, you can say command line to install web server on Windows. Okay, so this is what the command is, right? वो कह रहा है अगर आपने करना है command install Windows name web server. Okay, in tool management tool you can do this one. So this is a quick way to do this one कि आप web server enable कर लो उसके ऊपर ठीक है ये Microsoft का अपना ही article है वैसे right and it tells you you can do this. Okay, so we can go back into this one. यहाँ पे इसने फीचर्स दिए हुए लेट्स सी आई कैन डू दिस वन ओके आई कैन से PowerShell तो सारी एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन नाउ इज डन थ्रू PowerShell इन विंडोज सो आई कैन जस्ट डू दिस इसका जो मॉडर्न कंट्रोल है ना दिस विल अलाउ यू टू डू मेनी मेनी डिफरेंट थिंग्स resizing and all that and I can do this one okay तो इंसर्ट क्या वहां पे जाओ यू कैन लुक एट क्या क्या PowerShell की कमांड है टू इनेबल इट एंड यू कैन डू इट राइट फ्रॉम ओवर द कमांड प्रॉम्प्ट सो दीज आर माइक्रोसॉफ्ट ने काफ़ी ज़्यादा इन्वेस्टमेंट की है इसके ऊपर R&D की है टू डू दीज काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स राइट वो कह रहे हैं कि इसके अंदर यू डोंट हैव आई थिंक वी डू नॉट हैव द this PowerShell इसके फीचर्स इंस्टॉल नहीं है दैट्स फाइन लेट्स टेक अ लुक we'll go back into our settings or Windows features go back Windows features I think you have to update and enable the PowerShell administration then we'll do that Windows features on or off right तो इसके अंदर आपने जो फीचर ऑन करना है दैट इज Internet Information Server in Windows. Okay. The nice thing is once you do that, we have to make sure. While this is being done, let's take a look. हमने port 80 open किया कि नहीं किया था हमने. Let's make sure that it is there, right? So if we go back into our this one and we have let's see where it is. तो यहाँ पे we will check again our NSG. We know NS is attached to the subnet where VM is, so we are happy, we are okay with this. Okay. So यहाँ पे हमने अब the next thing that is going to allow is we're going to allow is HTTPS. Okay. So यहाँ पे हम जाएंगे inbound security rules. We'll say add. We'll say source is any. Source port range is any, destination is any. I can also say, for example, IP address of my machine, right? I can specify कि वहां से अगर आप HTTP उसके आ रहे हो HTTP के लिए only allow destination is my machine, okay? And you can specify. I'll go into this one later on, okay? Priority is one. That's fine, and then I can say HTTP. I'll leave it right now. I want to show you what happens, okay? Before and after. वैसे अब देख चुके हुए वो ऑलरेडी RDP के अंदर कि मैंने NSG जब अप्लाई किया था only then we are able to go. Very similarly, HTTP will not be able to access right over here unless I do this. So now I'm opening that gate, allowing from anywhere. I can go hit the port 80, okay, on this VM. So मुझे IP address को तो पता है इसका already, right? While it is doing it, I'll go back into my resource group. Resource group जो भी मैंने बनाया है RG CS demo, right? So if I do this, for example, virtual machine बल्कि public IP पे I can go there and I can get the IP address again. If I put it over here, right? Let's see what happens right now. ये आ गया, right? I can hit because this is done. It has done, so I can do this one. Okay. Okay, it's not secure, it's HTTP, but I'm going onto the web server on the virtual machine, right? So I have created a virtual network. I have enabled a creative virtual machine. I have installed web server, and I can access it. Another nice thing about this one is कि Microsoft कहता है कि इसका आप नाम भी दे सकते हो in my own domain. So if you look at it, again into the this one, I'll show you something configuration. वो कह रहा है ये इसके अंदर you can give it the name of this VM. So we can say CS437, okay, web server for example. Microsoft को जो domain है उसने automatically इसको register कर लेना है. And then we can name it, we can access it using this. जी बोलो.
सर अभी आपने कहा कि ये VM नेम है, इसके ऊपर जो लिखा हुआ है DNS नेम लेबल, तो इज देयर अ डिफरेंस या फिर सेम चीज है?
नहीं DNS नेम तो DNS है ना. जो VM name is simply the VM inside the Azure. That is our resource name. But this one it is mapping to the public IP now. ये public IP जो है, जिस तरह हम GoDaddy में जाते हैं, हम उन्हें कहते हैं यार हमारा ये DNS name है whatever, right? तो अब ये देखो, इसको अगर मैं कहूँ, पहले मैंने IP address से किया था, now we'll do this one, right? CS web server, let me see what the full name is. ये full name है मेरी उसी same virtual machine का, ठीक है? This is the public DNS of this, okay? It should again open the same page, right? Exactly same thing, because that IP address belongs to my machine और Microsoft ने कहा आप इसको नाम दे सकते हो, ठीक है? तो IP एड्रेस की सेटिंग में जाके पब्लिक IP जो असाइन हुआ है, मैं कह रहा हूँ इसका जो है ना एक DNS लेबल भी लगा दो इसके साथ, right? I'll go over the DNS if DNS is not clear, okay? But DNS is simply, जिस तरह हम google.com के ऊपर जाते हैं, तो google.com का actually there's an IP address, public IP address है, right? तो अगर मैं जाऊँ इसके ऊपर, if I ping it, right? If I ping if I ping google.com, right, there's an IP address actually. So mapping of IP address to a name DNS server does. Because हमें तो सिर्फ नाम आता है. We cannot remember, human beings cannot work with the IP addresses. तो हमें नाम पता होता है. तो DNS क्या करते हैं, हम नाम देते हैं ना, उसके अंदर स्टोर हुआ होता है कि इसका IP एड्रेस क्या है, राइट. तो दिस इज व्हाट DNS सर्वर डज. और ये हमारा अगला टॉपिक आएगा, राइट, लेटर ऑन. बट जस्ट टू शो यू, माइक्रोसॉफ्ट गिव्स यू. अब इसके अंदर हम अपना नाम नहीं दे सकते फिलहाल. माइक्रोसॉफ्ट कह रहा है अगर आपको फ्री में कुछ चीज चाहिए ना, आई कैन गिव इट टू यू इन माई ओन डोमेन. आप नाम दे दो जो मर्जी इसको, इन माई डोमेन, as long as it is unique, you can do this one. Okay? So it works out very fine. And you can do different names over here. We'll go into the naming and all that. That's another big topic that all companies do. But regardless, now you can see that I'm able to do this on my own. आप अपना रोल नंबर डाल दो, कुछ कर दो, और but it has to be within with this one. But you can do this one, right? So it works out very nicely. ठीक है. And we saw these things basically, right? Let me see if I want to go into, we have seen the RDP part, right, already. I don't want to go into the bastion and all that. And this thing, right? क्या bastion क्या चीज है? Idea is basically, right, what is the issue currently? The current issue is that RDP is 3389, and for that I have to assign a public IP. तो उन्होंने कहा this is not a good thing. As we saw, it is exposed directly on the internet. So how can we, if I want to do the configuration, if I want to connect, set up my server, what is the best way? So they said we'll create a service called Azure Bastion. And the way you do this is, you can simply say, if you go, and this is done on the VNet, okay? So you मेरा VNet है, तो मैं इसमें कहता हूँ set up a bastion, okay? It says Azure Bastion protects your virtual machines by secure and seamless RDP and SSH without the need to expose them through public IP addresses. Exactly जो हमने अभी किया ना, हमने RDP और SSH को हमने expose कर दी public IP. वो कह रहे हैं it protects your VMs by doing these things securely. और कह रहे कि will take care of everything. So वो कह रहा है select a VM to connect to. ठीक है, मैं इसमें कर रहा हूँ connect demo VM this one, okay. And what will happen is, अब वो कह रहे कि we'll create a new bastion. वो कह रहे हैं हम आपको एक developer bastion बना के देंगे. That's a service that allows this thing to happen. You can connect to any VM, you can pick the VM from the drop down, provide the ID password, and through this service over HTTP without, and you can remove the public IP, I can go inside the VM. तो क्या होता है कि थ्रू Azure Bastion जो सर्विस है, वो मेरा कनेक्शन लेके ओवर HTTPS, it basically internally makes a connection to VM over 3389, whether it's RDP or SSH, okay. तो it implements both RDP SSH behind the scenes. हमारी यहाँ पे connectivity over HTTPS. Let's take a look, right? So वो कह रहे हैं मैं खुद बना दूंगा आपको, and do this one. And what we'll do is I'll provide the password, okay. And authentication is username is akvm admin. I'll provide the password. It takes a little bit of time, okay, to do this. And I can say connect. यहाँ पे ये बना रहा है Bastion. वो कह रहे हैं मैं इस रिसोर्स ग्रुप के अंदर बनाऊंगा इसको, मैं इस VNet के ऊपर बनाऊंगा, और इसके अंदर मैं क्या कहते हैं ये करूंगा, ठीक है. इसके अंदर मैं एक पब्लिक IP एड्रेस भी बनाऊंगा, ठीक है, फॉर पब्लिक IP एड्रेस. एंड लेट्स डू दिस कॉन्फ़िगर मैन्युअली. उसके अंदर अगेन you create a bastion, right? So I can do is I can go to bastion, I can create, and again straight, so you create this service that allows you to work over HTTPS, and I can remove the IP address and all that, right? That is the idea. So if I do this and I can say RG, और मैं इसमें जा रहा हूँ in the demo, right? This is mine. I can say Bastion CS437 demo UAEN. Okay. I don't need zones. Tier is basic. No need to worry about. But इसके अंदर, if you're doing lot of remote management, then you can see you can have many instances, right, of this one, as more people are logging in, administrators and people, right? But basic is fine for our stuff. It says maximum of 2 instances, right? वो कह रहे हैं वर्चुअल नेटवर्क कौन सा, मैं बता रहा हूँ कि जी आप मेरा मेरा जो ऑलरेडी बना हुआ है उसको यूज करें, एंड इट पिक्स ऑटोमेटिकली उसने कौन एक सबनेट बनाना है। इनकी जो एज्योर की कुछ स्पेसिफिक सर्विसेज होती हैं, इट मस्ट बी नेम्ड स्पेसिफिकली, और उसने कहा मैंने एक सबनेट नया बनाऊंगा टू होस्ट माय सर्विसेज, यू कैन नॉट यूज इट एंड आई विल नेम इट एज्योर बेस्टन सबनेट। ओके, डोंट पुट एनीथिंग ओवर देयर। अपनी राउटिंग करता है, वेरियस डिफरेंट थिंग्स करता है। I don't want to get too complicated right now. So Azure Bastion is a service that allows you to securely connect to VMs over HTTPS without exposing the public IP address, right? तो यहाँ पे आके public IP address, we'll say public IP address name. Okay, we'll say Bastion uh, IP Bastion. Okay, we'll remove this one. Zone and availability zone, if it's available, that's fine. Maybe we'll pick one. Okay, we'll pick one. Last time हमारा fail हुआ था, that's fine. Next, copy paste is allowed on this connection, various different things. It's basic, so certain things are off. Okay, so you can do many different things if you pick the proper tier. You pick the basic one, certain things are disabled. Right now all we need is remote desktop connection, RDP, so this is sufficient for us. Okay, I will do this. Okay, validation passed, we'll create. Okay. So pretty much every customer does that, right? Um, we usually do that in every environment. इस चीज को, okay? So I'll give it a minute for it to complete. अच्छा, वो कह रहे हैं कि क्या मसला हुआ इसको, पब्लिक आईपीज। ओके, Bastion, what happened with Bastion? वो कह रहे हैं कि नेटवर्क, वो कह रहे हैं कि रीजन, is there an issue with the region? Did you pick the right region? Let's see what happened. If you go back and we'll see redeploy. Okay. Again, you can go back and redo it. मैं UDIS पे आ जाता हूँ, so I can pick resource group is RG CS. ये हमारा था. Region is fine. Region is fine. ये इस वजह से, that's why I don't, ये यहाँ पे there are many things, right? We'll say false, disable copy paste, false, session recording false, private only Bastion false. Let's see why it failed. Bastion host name, resource group, UAE North, everything is fine. Let's see why. Okay, again it was not very happy. वो कह रहा है कि कुछ missing है इसके अंदर. Let's see. Enable trending, I said false. Enable share link false. Let's do this. Let's see if it works this time. Okay. Please was not found. Demo UAN, Bastion host, network Bastion host. एक second. Resource सबनेट। ओ, वो कह रहे कि आपने ये नहीं मिल रहा मुझे इसका सबनेट। ओके, दैट्स फाइन। सो If you want to, so always, I mean, this is a, so let's go back into this one and subnet, okay? So let's do this. Let's create a subnet for Bastion first. Purpose is you can see it is listed. The specific services are listed. वो automatically उसने का नाम ये होगा Bastion का and you cannot change it. Okay? और यहाँ पे मैं कह रहा हूँ let's give it small number. वो कह रहा है minimum is I will require a 26 address. You cannot make it smaller. Okay? Already range उसने कर दिया. That's fine. I can make it from 192. So last जो इसकी boundary है ना last 64 addresses I'm giving it. Okay? So that's fine. I will do add. So always read into the error messages, and then it'll give you what is going on, right? Uh, then again, we'll go into Bastion. We'll say create, and we'll say, for example, ये हमारा demo resource group. We'll say Bastion, and RG Bastion and CS437 demo UAE. Okay. Okay. Standard now on basic. Okay. This one we have this one. No, it is there already. I was like, it found it already. Create new public IP address. Let's see if it created something. No, it did not. So we'll do a new one. Okay. Public IP address name. I don't like the name. I can say IP Bastion and CS437 demo UAEN. Okay. Review and create. Let's see if it passes this time. ये छोटी छोटी चीज़ें आती रहती हैं. Lot of time we try to strip them out ताकि हमें ये मसले ना आए, and we go step by step, right? We create all the required stuff, but usually it is okay. But ये important चीज़ें to be able to understand क्या हो रहा है, कहाँ पे मैसेज आ रहा है, and where to go and look for it. And once you do it couple of times, you get used to it, right? ये आपको आसानी से पता लग जाएगा. वैसे इसमें co-pilot भी डाल दिया है अब इन्होंने, तो it's easier to see. It can find out also. यहाँ पे डिटेल्स बता रहे हैं मैं. I'll do dismiss completed. It's really an amazing service. So मैं आपको दिखाता हूँ how does it work. Okay, it'll just take a couple of minutes. So that's how you get familiar with services. क्या services हैं, क्या काम कर रही हैं, where do we use them, and that's how we start building our data center, right? तो हमने वर्चुअल नेटवर्क बनाया, उसमें सर्टन सबनेट्स बनाए हैं, और हम नाउ वी आर डिप्लॉइंग सर्विसेज. हमने सबनेट बनाया वर्चुअल मशीन्स के लिए, हमने डिप्लॉय किया, हमने एक्सपोज किया आउटसाइड, एंड वी आर एबल टू कनेक्ट. वेब सर्वर चल रहा है उसके अंदर. यू कैन सी वी आर स्टार्टिंग टू बिल्ड आवर सर्विसेज, राइट, एंड एक्सपोज आवर सर्विसेज. अब हम उसके अंदर एक सिक्योरिटी लेयर ऐड कर रहे हैं थोड़ी सी. विल गो स्टेप बाय स्टेप इन ऑल ऑफ दीज थिंग्स, राइट. We saw the NSG ना हो तो its access is blocked by default. So NSE must be, तो हमें इवन दो हमारी स्क्रिप्ट 2-3 दफ़ा फेल हुई थी, हमारा NSE was not applied. So we were able to, we went there, we saw कहाँ पे अप्लाई हुआ है. हमने देखा सबनेट पे भी नहीं है. It was not even on the network card, right? So we attached it to the subnet, so it can allow the traffic to come in, right? और हमने उसके अंदर ports, we made sure to configure the ports, right? इसको हम देखते हैं थोड़ी देर तक. The important thing is let me look into the CLI part as well. Okay, so let's see, for example, Azure CLI का मैंने आपको बताया था, उसका लिंक दिया था command line documentation का. This is what we'll be using as the second part of your, right, getting started. I want to see वो जो link मैंने आपको दिया था, how to guides. It was very simple tutorials. Let me see. Learn to use the CLI. Okay, begin your Azure CLI journey, right? तो this is where we are. हमने environment बनानी है उसकी, right? So let's take a look. And right now let's focus on just CLI part, okay? And I will this one, okay? So it works on, it's common across all platforms, everything is fine, and so let's take a look how do we install. So यहाँ पे जो सीखने वाली चीज़ है, let me finish one thing, okay? So before I jump on the other thing, hold on, let me just finish it. Right. So command line interface to Azure is CLI. I'll let it run. I'll start this one as well, okay? यहाँ पे is prepare environment for the Azure CLI. Okay, install CLI. सबसे जो आसान चीज़ है to install the CLI is, for example, we want to do locally, right? While shell is nice, you want to do locally so you can create your scripts in code, VS Code, and run it and do all of that, right? So it is much nicer to install this, okay? So winget के अंदर इसका package manager है, just like जिस तरह Linux के ऊपर होते हैं, right? So you can do wget, okay? And you can do install this one, copy this, and you can, for example, do this one, right? वो शायद मुझे कह दे कि it's already there and whatnot, but let's see. Right, it is already there. Upgrade, or maybe I have the older version is upgrading it, okay? So that's all you have to do, right? Give it the command. ये मैंने article दिया हुआ है आप लोगों को. You can just let it install and let it do it, okay? Let it just work. Let's go back while it's installing and upgrading. Let's see what is happening on our Bastion side. Okay, it is deploying. ये behind the scenes एक server जैसा बनाता है, which it exposes securely through Azure, right? So that's why it takes a little bit of time creating Bastion. तो आपने दोनों चीज़ें करना है. CLI is very nice, right? आपने जो कुछ कर रहे हो उसकी फाइल बना लो आप उसके अंदर, और फाइल बनाने के बाद you can use Git. Always, always, always do your stuff in Git. आपको पता हो क्या किया मैंने, उसको वर्जन अपग्रेड करना है, आपको पता हो कि मैंने ये चीज़ डिप्लॉय की है. This is how we use it, right, in real life situations. So I can do, for example, इसके अंदर जाके I can say, sorry मेरी directories in D. Right. So CS437, CS. Right, so I can do, for example, CLI, for example, AZ Azure CLI dot, and you can say, for example, PS1. Your PowerShell key, but it's not really PowerShell. वो icon change कर देते उसको automatically. So I have this file, right? So I can say, for example, I want to generate code right now. I want to say AZ login. Okay. Yeah, this is a starting point. And let me see if I can do tenant. Right. I can do this kind of thing, okay? You can log into specific tenant. I'll come into that one in a minute. I just want to see where we are right now over here. Okay, this is going on. So, okay, good. It is there. Now let's see what the magic happens over here, okay? तो अभी तक मैंने रिमोट डेस्कटॉप मैंने यहाँ से किया था, राइट? इंस्टॉल हो रहा है, लेट इट इंस्टॉल. अभी तक मैंने इसके पब्लिक आईपी के ऊपर आके आरडीपी किया था. Now let's see what Azure does, what Bastion allows me to do. I go back over here. I go into the, for example, my VM. This was my VM. There you go. And I can say connect, and it says connect via Bastion. This option comes up now. And when I do this, No longer, for example, public IP. It's going to connect internally. Let's see. मैंने ID password दिया हुआ है उसका, and let's see what happens now. Okay. वो कह रहा है pop-up is let me ये pop-up block हो गए यहाँ से. I will allow from this one. Okay. I will allow this pop-up. So let's to connect again. इसने नया pop-up किया and it opened the क्या कहते हैं Bastion. ये Bastion Azure.com, ये मेरा इसने सर्विस बनाई है मेरे लिए. ये मेरे रिमोट डेस्कटॉप ने कहा आप लॉग इन हो कहीं और से, आई एम डिस्कनेक्टिंग, इट डिस्कनेक्टेड, राइट. ये कॉपी पेस्ट के लिए एंड नाउ यू कैन सी आई एम रनिंग सिक्योरली. ना मैंने आरडीपी किया, कुछ नहीं किया. ब्राउजर के ऊपर दैट सर्विस यू कैन सी hybrid networking hosting portal azure.net bastion.azure.com and on, right. I'm logged into the same virtual machine, right, over a browser, right, fully secure connection. I can do whatever I want to, right, over a browser. So this is the beauty of Bastion. You don't need to basically enable public IP and do any of that stuff, right? Now, if I disable public IP, what will happen? So now what I can do, right? Once I've enabled this, I can go back और NSE के अंदर जाके I can disable my RDP port just to prove that I am running without, for example, I'll go back into my virtual machines, I'll go back into my resource group ताकि मैं अपने उसके अंदर जाऊं NSG के अंदर, right, NSG, right. And now what I can do is I can say I want to delete this rule RDP. Now look at this one. क्योंकि हमने कहा था ये हम HTTPS के ऊपर कनेक्ट हो रहे हैं इससे. इंटरनली इट विल डू ओवर प्राइवेट आईपी, नो लॉन्गर पब्लिक आईपी के ऊपर आरडीपी हो रहा है, राइट. ये कनेक्शन सर्विस है दैट अलाउ मी टू कनेक्ट इंटरनली इन अ वेरी सिक्योर वे, राइट. सो नाउ आई हैव डन दिस and let me see what happened. This is my own stuff. I will close the RDP and I will go back. Where is my browser, right? Now where is my this one? Okay, this ये मेरा वो है, ये है, ठीक है. So I'm refreshing. Let's see what happens. I can close it and I can, let me go back. I will do connect to the VM again. Okay, so I'll go back into the VM. Sorry, virtual machine. ये मेरी virtual machine थी. Again, connect via Bastion. Okay, and let's connect. Okay. Now I'm back inside. मेरा public IP address is blocked. RDP is not allowing that, but I'm able to connect successfully and securely, right, to my VM. So this is the beauty of, right, now only thing that is enabled is my A port 80. That is still working. ठीक है, मैंने RDP port block कर दिया. Public IP is still there. My this one is क्या कहते हैं port 80 is available because मेरा web server run कर रहा है. But remote desktop मेरी administration is now completely blocked from the public IP, right? So nobody can. If somebody wants to come, they can go to the web server only. Or RDP you cannot connect. Okay. So this is one of the first thing that you want to do is block that. Enable Bastion. Okay. Or Bastion जो है, it can work on SSH for Linux machines as well, right? RDP for Windows and SSH जो basic version है. जो इनका standard version है, it will also do SSH for Windows and RDP for Linux because Linux supports as a supplementary protocol RDP also. You can do RDP on Linux as well. But Bastion in a basic one, it says I will only allow you SSH on Linux and RDP on Windows. But if you get the standard one, it enables that feature that you can do RDP on either Windows or Linux and SSH either on Windows or Linux. Okay. लाजमी बात है SSH is command line based, so when you do SSH, it brings you to the command line even for Windows, right? There is no window user interface over there. Go back over here. Right? We go back over here. This is our bastion, right? And this is so this is how you start setting up your infrastructure and environment, right? और ये सारी चीजें that you'll be doing in your programming assignment one ये उसके अंदर भी करना ठीक है. Let's see what else is there. ये मैंने कनेक्ट दिखा दिया आपको उसके अंदर RDP भी है SSH bastion and उसके अंदर I think create a command line session you can run scripts right and yeah I'll skip the win rm part create a win command line session so basically behind the scenes this is what it is doing ये RDP का है हमने देखा भी RDP किस तरह करता है we can see अगर public IP address हो then right और करेक्ट GUI सेशन है RDP के ऊपर accepts inbound traffic on port TCP 3389 this is a protocol for RDP right by default I can do on my own machine as well RDP I can do for example localhost I think you are already connected right you have already have a console session I cannot do this one again वो मुझे कह रहा है ठीक है because I tried to localhost as well so but I main point is 3389 you can also do for example if you're doing this you can specify port also I think let me see somewhere either that or यहाँ पे you can say for example localhost you can say for example 3389 you can do this one like this नहीं let me see how do you specify the port it's you आप semicolon बना के so you can change the port also उसका अगर different port हो different port पे configure की भी हो that you can do you can for example do 4000 as well अगर आपने configure किया हुआ है वो भी कहेगा ये आप connect नहीं हो सकेगा उसके ऊपर कह रहा सर्विस नहीं रन हो रही आपके 4000 के ऊपर which is fine but this is a 3389 is the default port right and lot of time we change it ताकि हैकर्स को पता नहीं लगे कि डिफॉल्ट पोर्ट क्या क्या किस पोर्ट के ऊपर ये सर्विस कॉन्फ़िगर हुई भी है बट एनीवे दिस व्हाट इट इज राइट तो लिनक्स के ऊपर दिस इज एसएसएच उसकी पब्लिक की होती है एंड यू कैन क्रिएट पब्लिक की प्राइवेट की पेयर जब आप वीएम बनाते हो व्हिच यू विल डू दैट इन योर प्रोग्रामिंग असाइनमेंट इट विल क्रिएट द की पेयर वो आप बनाओगे आप उसको की पेयर दोगे उसको लॉग इन करने के लिए एंड देन it will log you in okay so SSH is basically based on key pair right public key and you provide the public key and it make it decrypts your connection or encrypts your connection and allow you to secure login right always so yeah Windows can there be it is by default available in Windows Server right let me see we can probably do that क्या टाइम हो गया बस 10:30 हो गए मैं maybe I can do that in the class tomorrow ठीक है we can do that and then we'll go over the storage part right we'll do this one or maybe we'll have one of the TAs do the demo for you for the SSH but you get the same idea Bastion के ऊपर जाके when you go into Bastion you will see password from VM so it knows that this guy is for example यहाँ पे SSH key की option भी आ जाती है इसके ऊपर when it knows this for example वो है यहाँ पे password I want to see कि SSH key की option because virtual machine it knows कि मैं Windows virtual machine हूँ that's why it is not giving me SSH option right ये अगर मेरा Bastion का tier different होता ना it would have given me SSH option but लेकिन उसको पता है Windows virtual machine it's not even giving me option over here right so I will show you guys the SSH part also and you can try this one actually yourself okay but anyway this was the kind of introduction to virtual machines networking NSGs and everything what you'll be doing right so this is the starting point of our data center right so data center के अंदर हम networking करते हैं थोड़ी सी security setup करते हैं we set up the rules and we start creating the virtual machines and exposing services this is from the IaaS and PaaS mix right IaaS के अंदर virtual machine है बाकी सारी services are all software defined right platform as a service based everything else what we have seen we don't have to configure networking we don't have to worry about the networking equipment NSE के पीछे क्या service चल रही है we have no idea right We're just configuring these things, and environment is taking care of all of that, right? And based on this knowledge, we'll start building our whole data center as we move on, our databases, our container services, on and on, right? So this is the main thing. इसमें आप जितना read कर सकते हो, try to do as much reading as possible. It will be really really helpful along with doing all the hands-on. मैंने आपको 3 labs दी हैं. Do those things, understand all of those things, okay? And we'll have quiz on the same topics as well, right? After the quiz. Any questions, anything? Let me know, please.
सर डॉस अटैक की प्रिवेंशन जो है वो किस स्टेप पे आएगी?
ये
और
DDoS,
दूसरा
हाँ
ये
हाँ,
एक चीज और क्लियर कर दें, जो बास्टिन है ये जस्ट लाइक अ रैपर है आरडीपी का।
नहीं नहीं नहीं, इट्स अ सेपरेट सर्विस ऑल टुगेदर, ठीक है? बेस्टिन जिसे हमने भी बताया है, ये अब देखोगे फिर से यहाँ पे, बेस्टिन इज एक्चुअली आपसे कनेक्शन लेके ना ओवर 443, इट एक्चुअली ट्रांसलेट्स सारी जो ट्रैफिक है ना फ्रॉम 3389 ओवर HTTP, राइट? इट डज ऑल ऑफ दैट. तो आप बैशन को सर्विस देते हो, बात करते हो, एंड इट डज ट्रांसलेशन ऑफ प्रोटोकॉल from 443 to 3389. So it is talking to the VM, you're talking to this service, and it is talking to the VM, right? So सारी connectivity is coming over here, right? But
ओके गॉट इट।
वो सेटअप करके, आपका कनेक्शन सेटअप करके ना, इट गोज आउट ऑफ द मिडल. वो एक सिक्योर कनेक्शन है. You will always talk to 443. Internal there is a translation happens and you talk to the VM, right? That वो एक लेयर आ जाती है दरमियान के अंदर, right? That's all it provides. That does the initial connectivity, reaching out, everything. It does that. Then there's just a translation layer in the middle that you talk directly to it, and it does the translation. वो session बन जाता है kind of, right? That's what it does. So no,
ओके
it is
सर
not a wrapper
डॉस
at all.
का और डॉस के बारे में बता दें।
DDoS, right? So
डीडॉस।
DDoS, basically there's a service, right? So if you go into Azure, you can say DDoS, DDoS protection plan. It is one of the most expensive service over here, right? If you look at it, यहाँ पे आप देख सकते हो प्राइसिंग कैलकुलेटर में. If you look at DDoS, अब शायद इसका वो दूसरा प्लान भी आ गया हुआ है, cheaper plan भी, but it used to be yeah, network protection. You can see now it is monthly is $3,000, okay? And इसके अंदर IP protection भी है, which is let's see, if I have IP resources, each one for 1 month is $200, right? You can pay by like this because a lot of people complain कि आप $3,000 ले रहे हो, right? So if I want to protect my VM right now, for example, I can create a single IP protection plan, RG this one, and I can say DDoS and web server, and I can write a web server single IP, or I can say, yeah, you want to specify something UAEN, right? For example, उसके अंदर मैंने बना ली, and then let's go back, क्योंकि इसने I guess I can attach multiple IPs, and I will show you. It should go pretty quickly as well. तो DDoS का जो प्लान है, behind the scenes is the actual appliance and all that, and what you do is you go and attach. आप उसको configure करते हो प्लान को, and what you do is आप resources को protect करते हो, right? So I can say, it will
ओके
say, okay, you have anything, and I can say, let me see, VNet, no, ये देखेगा कि मेरे पब्लिक आईपी कहाँ पे हैं, ठीक है? नेटवर्क इंटरफेस है मेरा, नेटवर्क इंटरफेस के ऊपर अभी तक है. No, protected resources. I want to add. Let me see if I can add. Okay. Virtual network. No, I want. Let me see. First is VNet, और उसके बाद then I will add the public IP. Let me see. क्योंकि जब मैं ये करता हूँ ना, it protects automatically everything. Right? Refresh. और VNet आ गया मेरा, ठीक है? उसने कहा public IP address. It was able to find one. ठीक है, तो इसने एक चीज प्रोटेक्ट रिसोर्स की है, पब्लिक आईपी इज वन, सो आई विल बी चार्ज $199 फॉर दिस ऑन अ मंथली बेसिस, ठीक है? और इसके अंदर आई कैन कीप ऑन, अगर मैं ऐड करता जाऊंगा अप्लायंसेस, इट विल कीप ऑन एडिंग स्टफ, राइट? सो नेटवर्क कार्ड उसने डिटेक्ट किया, देयर इज नथिंग एल्स, राइट? तो मैंने जब वीनेट ऐड किया उसके अंदर, उसने उसमें से डिटेक्ट किया कि आपके पास कितने वो हैं. बेसियन होस्ट भी है, उसने इसका भी पब्लिक आईपी एड्रेस, सो दो चीज़ें पकड़ ली हैं इसने, आई गेस ऑटोमेटिकली, राइट? सो ऑन दैट थिंग, लेट्स सी इफ वी हैव फॉर एग्जांपल anything else, view cost analysis. पहले जब प्लान आया था ये लॉन्ग टाइम बैक, दे डिड नॉट हैव ऑप्शन ऑफ सिंगल आईपी, ये भी कल तक आनी शुरू होंगे, लीव इट आउट, देन वी विल सी, राइट? But your DDoS plan basically, and it can charge you by IP address or by whole environment, or up to 100 IP address, it charges $3,000, right? So I will see uske andar kya hai. But anyway, this is what the DDoS plan is. Again, the service is only a configuration part, actual appliance is underneath, which you get attached to as part of this, right? This is what's
Okay, sir,
happening.
by single IP, you mean it will be protecting only a particular IP?
जी जी मेरा, because I can have hundreds of IP addresses, right? So I can say, okay, I just want to pay per IP address. मेरे का दो चार हैं,
Okay.
I want to do that, right? क्योंकि कस्टमर्स की बहुत कंप्लेंट थी कि हमारी दो चार चीज़ें, क्योंकि यूजली एवरीथिंग हैज़, वो उन्होंने फायरवॉल ही सिर्फ एक्सपोज की होती थी, एवरीथिंग इज़ प्राइवेट। वो कहते हैं हमने सिर्फ फायरवॉल को प्रोटेक्ट करना है, या अपना जो लोड बैलेंसर है उसको प्रोटेक्ट करना है, हमारी दो तीन चीज़ें आप हमारे से इतने पैसे क्यों ले रहे हैं? So then they said, okay,
सही
we'll
से
just charge you for your public appliances. Because usually everything has private IP in a proper environment, right? वो आपकी दो चार appliances ही होंगी जिनका public IP है, through which you are exposing everything, right? So that's what happens. ठीक है।
ओके
सर एक क्वेश्चन है कि आपके वीनेट के अंदर मल्टीपल पब्लिक आईपी एड्रेसेस हो सकते हैं, और कोई यूज केस है व्हिच यू कैन हाईलाइट जहां पर बंदा चाहेगा टू हैव मल्टीपल पब्लिक आईपी एड्रेसेस?
Public IP addresses are not bound to VNet, they are bound to your resources. जिस तरह हमने लास्ट टाइम देखा था कि public IP addresses are, let me go back actually, इसी के ऊपर नहीं, वो हमारा ना उसके ऊपर था एक्चुअली, डिफरेंट, वो दूसरे वाले वर्चुअल नेटवर्किंग के अंदर, कि आपका जो पब्लिक आईपी एड्रेस इज, इट इज अटैच टू नेटवर्क कार्ड्स, firewalls, load balancers, right? So yes, of course, and I can assign, for example, even on my machine, I can assign multiple public IP addresses. कि एक IP एड्रेस के ऊपर I have web server, एक के ऊपर I have, for example, FTP server, right? I can do that. So I can have, so VNet के ऊपर देखो, VNet is just a network. Public IP addresses is attached to a resource जिसमें सर्विसेज रन कर रही हैं, ठीक है? सो जिस तरह फॉर एग्जांपल मुझे जो VNet मिलता है, एनीवे लेट मी कीप इट सिंपल, इफ आई गो इनटू नेटवर्क सेटिंग्स ऑफ दिस VM, मैं नेटवर्क कार्ड के ऊपर जाता हूँ, ये मैंने आईपी कॉन्फ़िगरेशन है ना, आई कैन ऐड अ न्यू आईपी कॉन्फ़िगरेशन एंड आई कैन से फॉर एग्जांपल आईपी कॉन्फ़िग 2, ठीक है? यहाँ पे आई कैन ऐड अनदर पब्लिक, तो एक और नेटवर्क कार्ड लग रहा है मेरी मशीन के अंदर, थिंक ऑफ इट लाइक दैट, उसका एक और इंटरनल आईपी होना है और उसका एक और पब्लिक आईपी होना है। तो पब्लिक आईपी जब आती है ना रिक्वेस्ट, तो वो एक्चुअली गॉट बाउंड टू इंटरनली मेरे प्राइवेट आईपी के ऊपर आ जाती है, वो नेटवर्क कार्ड ये करता है उसको, ठीक है? क्योंकि पब्लिक आईपी तो इज सिंपली वे टू गेट इन, लेकिन असल में मेरे पास आईपी तो वो प्राइवेट आईपी है नेटवर्क कार्ड के ऊपर। तो मेरी जो सर्विस रन कर रही थी, वेब सर्वर या एफटीपी सर्वर, इट इज बाउंड टू द इंटरनल आईपी। तो नेटवर्क कार्ड पब्लिक आईपी की ट्रैफिक लेके इंटरनल आईपी जो उसका है ना, वो उसके ऊपर बाउंड कर देता है, ठीक है? So
ठीक है।
that's what happened. Anyway, that is a networking part. I can go into a separate networking. Maybe I'll do that to clarify a lot of these points. But yes, I can attach multiple network cards and multiple network configurations. Or yeah, by the way, I can do that on my own PC as well. Yeah, nothing special on Azure. मैं यहाँ पे जाके ना I can play इसकी settings हमारे लिए इन्होंने वो बंद की भी होती हैं actually. I can do many different things. I can do multiple addresses over here as well, internal addresses. और मैंने आपको बताया था क्लास में भी कि हमारी मशीन के ऊपर तो पब्लिक आईपी नहीं होता, राइट? वो पब्लिक आईपी जो है दैट इज, ये देखो मेरे प्राइवेट आईपीज हैं, इंटरनल प्राइवेट आईपीज हैं, राइट? वो पब्लिक आईपी तो मेरे डीएन उसका राउटर का है ना, जो वाईफाई राउटर है या पीटी सेल का राउटर है, राइट? फाइबर का राउटर जो है, वो इंटरनली एक्चुअली इफ आई रन अ वेब सर्वर, वहां पे मैं मैपिंग करूंगा, यार अगर पोर्ट 80 पे ट्रैफिक आ रही है ना उस आईपी, प्लीज सेंड इट टू दिस मशीन। Anyway, एक separate topic है. I will explain this later on. I'll keep it simple right now to say yes, you can attach multiple IP addresses and you can attach different services to different IP addresses. ठीक है? ये मैं explain करूँगा in a separate networking मैं करूँगा क्या कहते हैं session to go over the networking part, right? It's a very important and very interesting. ये basics थोड़े से पता होने चाहिए हम सबको, ठीक है? तो yes, you can have multiple IP addresses on each VM and एक VM एक virtual network के ऊपर अगर as many appliances you have, as many VMs you have, virtual machines, you can have as many public IP addresses, right? So there is really no limit for that matter. Yes.
ठीक, थैंक यू।
DDoS को अगर कोई चीज़ समझ नहीं आती मुझे बता दिया करो. आई विल गो इनटू डिटेल, हैव अ सेपरेट सेशन. मुझे कह दिया करो कि सर प्लीज हैव अ सेपरेट सेशन ऑन दिस टॉपिक इन डिटेल. वो मैं एक चीज़ को लेकर आई कैन गो डीप, क्योंकि नेटवर्किंग की आई हैव सीन लॉट ऑफ टाइम ये प्रैक्टिकल एस्पेक्ट्स आर नॉट कवर्ड इन द नेटवर्किंग कोर्स, व्हाट आई हैव रियलाइज्ड. बट वो आप मुझे बताओ, वी कैन डू समथिंग. ठीक है, आई एम गोना
जी सर,
डिलीट.
I have a few questions on DDoS.
हाँ बिल्कुल.
So I can ask after the class, or if time is
हाँ, आई डोंट
also
हैव
on
एनी
the, yeah.
प्रॉब्लम, वी कैन कंटिन्यू फ्रॉम माय साइड. हाँ
Okay.
पूछो.
सर ये DDoS जो है वो किस लेवल पे इसकी प्रोटेक्शन होती है, नेटवर्क लेवल पे या DNS लेवल पे, या किस लेवल पे बेटर होती है? इसको करना जो है वो ज़्यादा अच्छा रहेगा। और जिस तरह डिजिटल ओशन वगैरह वो तो फ्री प्रोवाइड करते हैं DDoS, तो माइक्रोसॉफ्ट जो है वो इतना ज़्यादा क्यों चार्ज कर रहा है? तो ऐसा क्या है जो माइक्रोसॉफ्ट एक्स्ट्रा ऑफर कर रहा है DDoS प्रोटेक्शन में, जो दूसरे क्लाउड्स जो हैं वो नहीं कर रहे?
यार एक तो एंटरप्राइज सर्विस है, नीचे से जो आपको पढ़ते हैं वहाँ पे आपकी आई थिंक यूजुअली आई नीड टू सी क्या चीज़ें हैं इसके अंदर. आपको बहुत हैवी आपको वो चीज़ें मिलती हैं, क्या कहते हैं, मैट्रिक्स मिलते हैं, मॉनिटरिंग होती है इसके ऊपर, राइट? यू कैन डू मैनी मैनी डिफरेंट थिंग्स इसके ऊपर, राइट? और इसके अंदर आपने ये देखा है कि देर इज़ नॉट टू मच टू सेटिंग. ठीक है, जो एक्चुअल अप्लायंसेस जो कर रही हैं सारा काम एक्चुअली दे आर अंडरनीथ, दे आर इन द डेटा सेंटर, राइट? तो यहाँ पे वाई इट इज़ डिफरेंट. अब ये उसी को केटर करने के लिए फॉर एग्जांपल दे हैव रिड्यूस द कॉस्ट, राइट? बट अगेन आई नीड टू आई हैव टू चेक वो क्या चीज़ ऑफर कर रही हैं और किस लेवल की कर रही हैं और क्या चीज़ कर रही हैं, राइट? जिस तरह क्लाउड फ्लेयर है, मे बी आई थिंक दे प्रोवाइड सर्टन सर्विसेज एंड लॉट ऑफ टाइम वो कस्टमर्स क्या करते हैं, पब्लिक आईपी एड्रेसेस दे होस्टेड ऑन क्लाउड फ्लेयर, राइट? सो दे डू दोज काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स एज वेल. उनकी सर्विसेज रन करनी है एजर के अंदर, बट डीडॉस बिकॉज क्लाउड फ्लेयर की जो सर्विस अंदर है ग्लोबल सर्विसेज, राइट? So some
जी
customers do that, absolutely, right? So I can pose the question internally to see why it is like this. But generally, एक चीज़ जो होती है customers के लिए, they say कि if they are subscribing to all the services within Azure, so they want to have a one-stop shop where they're getting everything. तो उसके लिए they have allowed this to happen कि उन्होंने DDoS की सर्विस बनाई है for the per IP address level as well. So it becomes rather cheap, $199 की for a single IP. अगर customers के दो चार ही होते हैं तो it works out well. बट यस, अगर आपकी एक दो वर्चुअल मशीन्स हैं, आप $100 खर्च कर रहे हो, देन $199 बिकम्स डबल द प्राइस, राइट? आपकी छोटी सी अगर सर्विस है टू नॉट टू हैव DDoS, राइट? सो मे बी देन दोज ऑप्शंस आर गुड. जनरली से डेटा सेंटर लेवल एंटरप्राइज सर्विस, उसमें वो आपको प्रिटी मच अनलिमिटेड बैंडविड्थ देते हैं, राइट? वो DDoS के अंदर यू कैन सी दिस विल वन ऑफ द बिग डिफरेंसेस एक्चुअली बिटवीन माइक्रोसॉफ्ट और क्लाउड हाइपरस्केलर्स वर्सेस ये जो दूसरी कंपनीज है. यहाँ पे ट्रैफिक विल बी ऑलमोस्ट अनलिमिटेड. okay? वहाँ पे आपको बाउंड कर देंगे आपको कि आपको इतनी ट्रैफिक विल प्रोटेक्ट, बिकॉज दे कैनॉट से कि आपका इतनी टेराबाइट्स ट्रैफिक आ रही है एंड वी विल प्रोटेक्ट यू, राइट? इट विल रिक्वायर फॉर देम मैसिव रिसोर्सेज. तो अपनी आपकी $100 की सर्विस के ऊपर दे विल नॉट अलाउ दैट टू हैपन, राइट? वो कई जगह थ्रॉटलिंग हो जाएगी उसकी. So there are many factors,
सही।
but यहाँ पे pretty much they are giving you enterprise grade massive amount of data it will be able to handle, right? So that'll be I think one of the biggest difference that is going to happen, right? Enterprise grade services with pretty much unlimited bandwidth they will provide. You can see also कि अगर यहाँ पे, and this is one of the things you can see कि यहाँ पे if they are doing by traffic, so traffic is not listed over here. That tells you कि यहाँ पे they are gonna do for example unlimited traffic sort of, right? They'll for that IP address you can have. और firewalls के ऊपर I mean terabytes of traffic आ रही होती है जो बड़े data centers हैं, right? When you have everything exposed through firewall, massive amount of traffic is coming, right? So I mean then it becomes a small cost to pay to make sure everything is reliably without the कि आपको ये ना हो कि मेरी कहाँ पे throttling शुरू हो जाएगी, right? So ये
ओके सर, ओके सर।
हाँ, ये वैसे DDoS के उसके ऊपर पेज के ऊपर they'll mention lot of these details actually, right? So I can take a look at that. But this is I think one of the key difference will be the traffic and बहुत monitoring और इसके अंदर आपको alerts और alerting monitoring services everything is built in also. But anyway, that's what it is.
ओके सर, थैंक्स अ लॉट।
Absolutely. So yeah, inshallah, I think we'll continue these online sessions as well. I want to cover material. I hope it doesn't become too much of a burden. But anyway, thanks guys. So my networking group, I think I'll do a separate session as well over the weekend maybe to make things clear. But anyway, thank you guys. Thank you very much. I'll stop the recording now.
ओके सर,
Thank you. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.
ओके, अल्लाह हाफिज़।